Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Open Day Engineering panel. My name is Chloe and I work in the Office of Engagement at the university. The panel today is going to be talking about studying engineering here at Southern Cross University and what to expect both from the course and a career once you graduate. There will be time for questions after the discussion, and our academics will also be available after the panel to answer any individual questions you might have. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge we are on the traditional lands of the Bundjalung Nation today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We're joined by a wonderful panel today. We have with us Dr. Emma Thompson-Brewster, who is a lecturer in engineering. We also have Samantha Mahone, who is a third-year civil engineering student and undergraduate engineer with Planet Consulting, and Damon Lemke, who is a graduate of Southern Cross, a mechanical engineer and workshop manager at Makiko General Engineering. Welcome to you all. So Emma, I'm going to start with you. The Bachelor of Engineering Systems Honours is split into two specialisations, civil engineering and mechanical engineering. Could you explain the difference for us and the type of careers associated with each specialisation?
Yes, I certainly can. So I think once I heard an engineer from Ford being interviewed, and they said, what do engineers do? What's the purpose? And he said, when something's not on the shelf, they call the engineer to build it and design it. And I think that's a really good summary of what engineers do. If it doesn't already exist, we get employed to design it. And when you're thinking about civil versus mechanical, again, really simply, mechanical is things that move. Civil is generally things that stay still. So mechanical is more cars, aeroplanes, robots, machinery. Civil is more buildings, roads, bridges, waterways, that type of thing. In terms of careers, there is a huge amount of diversity in the type of career you can have with an engineering degree. A lot of our graduates end up working for consulting. A big fraction of all the engineers end up working for consulting companies, either small or large. Another large fraction is in local government, or even state or national government as well. But then there's a whole other suite of people who work for smaller tech companies, academics like myself, policy, regulators down in Canberra, teachers. Engineering is kind of a degree in solving problems. So we're very useful in a lot of different fields.
Amazing, thank you. And the degree includes a 60-day professional placement experience. Damon, I'm going to throw to you. Can you tell me about what your placement experience was like while you were studying here?
Certainly. So my placement experience I did at Makiko Engineering, where I'm currently employed. And during my time there, they'd had a few placement people go through, and they said that most of the people sat out the back in the drawing and drafting, doing design work, which is something that I'd been learning a lot about at university. But I went the other direction and spent most of my time out on the workshop floor, because that way I could get a sense of what was involved in producing the things that I was designing at university, and learn more about things that can and can't be done, and get more of an insight into the parts that I wasn't familiar with. And I found it a really, really exciting, interesting opportunity. We got to play with some really cool machines, build some really cool things. Got to sort of get my foot in the door a little bit, make some connections. It was sort of a good experience.
And you ended up getting a job through that placement while you were still a student?
I did, yep.
Emma, would you say that's the case for a lot of our students, that they actually end up getting employed while they're still undergraduates?
Yes, a resounding yes. We were trying to put together the numbers because there's no specific survey, but we do generally assume that most third and fourth years are working in an undergraduate engineering role. When we tried to put the numbers together, it was more than 50%, probably around 60% plus. But Damon's story is not unusual. One of the benefits of SCU is that we're smaller, we know our students quite well, and we have strong ties with local industries. So getting those placements, finding the right one for you is not as challenging as it might be somewhere else. It's quite a simple exercise here.
And Semi, you are an undergraduate engineering student and you are currently employed as well. Could you tell us about that?
So at the start of 2023, so start of last year, I secured a job as an undergraduate at Planet consulting firm. And then, so just there I was sort of shadowing designers and engineers, seeing how it all works, helping on little projects where I can. And then November last year, the managing director at Planet said there's an opportunity for a job out at Lismore City Council on their flood recovery team for an undergraduate, and I said that sounds really fun. So I've been there ever since, out at Lismore, seconded out there on their roads and bridge team. So doing procurement for securing funding for Transport New South Wales, helping out with safety, site inspections, getting out and about. It's really good, learning so much. And then about 4 weeks ago, I moved from roads and bridges to the waste side of flood recovery, which is a whole new, learning so much there as well. It's a whole different ballpark, but yeah, it's really good. Really
That's
good.
amazing that you're getting such a broad scope
Yeah,
within that one role. That's incredible.
100%.
And Southern Cross University is rated #1 in Australia for skills development in engineering in the Good Universities Guide 2024, Emma. Could you tell us about some of the labs and machinery that we have here on campus and all the fun ways that students get to develop their skills?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, for the people in the room, the best way to answer this is for you to go on one of the tours. So I understand we've got regular tours going up to A Block to look at the labs, and we've got quite a few different labs there. I can't quite remember the number, 4 or 5 or 6. We've got a big water lab that has a large water flume and various other things. We've got concrete testing labs where we can figure out the strength of concrete by breaking it, which is usually fun. Soil labs, robotics labs. There's a few examples of some of the things we have in the robotics lab in the library. So if you just go around there, we've got the robot arm and a few self-driving cars, little ones, tiny ones. And what else do we have? I think that's the most that I can remember off the top of my head. But there's certainly a lot of fun things to play with if you're an on-campus student or if you're coming to campus for some of our residential programs, if you're an online student.
Amazing, thank you. And Damon, during your studies, you got to work with a local tea tree plantation to find solutions to optimize their operations. Could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. So during the thermodynamics class, the lecturer was involved in a project out near Casino and sort of employed a handful of students to go with him and look at this the tea tree plantation and the processing plant that's associated with it. And the owner and operator was just looking for ways to sort of save money, optimize his process, make everything a little bit more efficient. So using, applying the skills that we'd been learning in class, we were able to make a few recommendations to him. And just by installing, for example, one single heat exchanger, he was able to save about $20,000 per season in his fuel costs. So yeah, just little things like that, sort of taking the knowledge that you're learning in class and then applying it in a real world scenario was definitely one of the more awesome parts of studying here.
And I think that's quite common now with the Southern Cross model. It's that this move to real world case studies and real world applications. Emma, could you tell me a little bit about some of the other case studies that our students look at as part of their course?
I certainly can. So the way we teach here is largely through a systems thinking approach, as opposed to a typical discipline-related approach where you're learning one subject, then you're learning another subject, then you're learning another subject. From first year, we're introducing these real-world case studies that we structure the learning around. So you're learning the technical concepts in their real-world application in a holistic way, which I think is an incredibly important skill for all engineers to have, especially moving forward. So the two key case studies we have are a redevelopment of the Ballina Marina, which is a focus for our civil engineering students, And the other one is extension of the Richmond Dairies processing facility, and that's more targeted towards the mechanical engineers. So rather than having kind of a new little project every 6 weeks or something, you're building on skills throughout each unit around these larger case studies to help, facilitate your learning within a context that you're really familiar with, and adding on a little bit each time, which we feel is a very effective way to learn.
And Damon, I believe you did the Preparing for Success program as well. How do you feel that kind of prepared you to go into academic study?
Yeah, the PSP was a really good opportunity, and it's really cool that Southern Cross provides it. When I left high school, I sort of was a bit unsure about what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go to university. So the Preparing for Success program is just like a math unit, a science unit, and then there's a couple of units about like referencing and like English studies and then time management. Sort of gave me a bit of a feel for what university life would be like, a bit of a chance to familiarise myself with the campus and the staff and what doing tertiary study would be like. And then upon completion of that, that program gives you guaranteed entry into any course that you like. At least it did when I did it. And so I was able to get straight into engineering that way. ATAR, everything else didn't really matter at that point. Already had my foot in the door.
Yeah, that's great. I should mention as well that it's a fee-free course, so if you're returning to study after having a bit of time off, that's a really great way to kind of step back into academic study. Emma, I'm going to go back to you. I know you've touched on this a little bit, but what is unique about studying engineering at Southern Cross University?
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I have touched on a few different things. My favourite for why I work here and why I enjoy teaching here are the smaller class sizes, and that I have the ability to learn everyone's names, which is a skill that does not come easily to me. But because we have that smaller class approach, I can do that, and I can develop relationships with the students as they progress through their degree. The other thing, there's three things. The other one would be the diversity of backgrounds that we have here. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy getting to know students, where they're from, what their background is, where they want to go, because, that's why we do this job. I could do more typical engineering if I wanted to, but I really enjoy working with people and helping them get where they want to go, so that's why I'm here. And the last one would be the systems thinking approach to what we do. I have a background in more human-centred design and humanitarian engineering. I think it's really important that we place our engineering designs within the context that they're going to live and they're going to function, and I'm really glad that we're teaching that from basically day one here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Semi, I'm going to come back to you now. You are doing the Bachelor of Engineering Systems honours with a specialisation in civil engineering.
Yeah.
What have you enjoyed about the course so far?
So far with the course, the thing I've enjoyed most is, I'm going to extend on with Emma's comment on the system works with the Ballina Marina and projects like that. I really enjoy sort of pretending that I'm an engineer already, because at work I see project managers and engineers and they've been in the industry for 20 years and I'm like, I just want to be you. And then getting to do this system works and the holistic approach, sort of acting like you're a project manager, is really good. And I enjoy that a lot. And also all the friends I've made is probably another big one with the small classes.
Fantastic. And what advice would you give to the people in the room here today that are considering studying engineering?
If you go for it, it's the best thing I ever did. One thing I'd say with engineering is you're here to learn how to think like an engineer. So I realise sometimes I get a bit bogged down with theories and all that side of maths and everything, but at the end of the day, you're here to learn. You're here to think like an engineer. So I'd say that's one of the main things. And also get industry experience as early as you can, because that is probably where I've been learning. The relationship between uni and work and seeing how it relates has probably been one of the main things.
Amazing. What about Emma and Damon? What advice would you guys give?
I'd say that as intimidating as engineering might seem, it's definitely just another skill, something that can be learned. The thought process, like Samuel was saying, is something that you can learn over time and develop and work on as a skill. Yeah, you can learn just about anything. So that, yeah, you might have classmates and other people that are like seem naturally talented or gifted at it, have like insane hobbies and stuff outside of university. But I wouldn't let that sort of slow you down at all. Yeah, it's definitely it's an easy thing to sort of get into. The opportunities are incredible, and it's definitely well worth it. It does take some effort, but it is doable. It's definitely doable.
So my advice for anyone thinking about what they're planning to do as their next step, and this is very much coming from my engineering brain, is think about what problems you're passionate about trying to solve. I think that's a really good way to approach going into an engineering degree. It's what works for me. I wanted to get into supplying clean drinking water to the world, and that's not what I ended up doing, but I do things quite adjacent to that problem in a way that really suits me. It suits the skill path, the path that was available to me, and it suits my skills really well. So think about the problems that you're passionate about solving and the skills you need to get there. Want to second what Damon said, that you don't have to have all the skills right now. Say you're not as confident in your maths or your physics or your chemistry or whatever you need, whatever you think you need to be an engineer, you can learn them along the way. There was plenty of undergraduate exams that I felt I didn't do well on. There may have been one or two that I cried during. And now I lecture in that subject, because through work experience, through my research experience, I learnt in an applied way that suited me, and that enabled me to connect with the material. So, there's so many unknowns in the world, but if you're working towards a problem that you want to solve and that you're passionate about, you can't really go too wrong.
I love that about doing problems that you're passionate about. I know there's also a lot of research opportunities at this university as well. Emma, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your research?
About my personal research that I love talking about, or the opportunities for the students? One of the main, so I'll do a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
For the undergraduate students, in your fourth year, you'll do a research thesis. So that will be under one of the academics and probably an industry partner at the university that will go over several terms. So that is a great way to connect with something that you're really interested in. If there's a specialist niche that you want to get a taste of, that's a great way to do it. My research background has really been in wastewater treatment. I'm a chemical and environmental engineer and not necessarily a civil or mechanical engineer, but I'm involved in teaching a lot of the maths and physics subjects that are common across both of these fields. But yes, so my background's in wastewater treatment, connecting the problem of removing nutrients from the wastewater and producing fertilizer products with them, usually products used for non-edibles like cotton and things like that. That's been my background. Where my future's going with my research, I hope, is in the waste management of absorbent hygiene products, which is a massive issue globally, especially in Australia. It's an under-researched theme. And it also combines my passions of environmental health, human health, and technology development. So if anyone's interested in those research themes in another 3 years, please contact me. I'd love to have you as my thesis students.
Thank you very much, everyone.